Welcome to 100 Yards of Football this morning. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Today, I'm highlighting the NFL Legend Special. And today, I'm going to talk about a young man that passed on January the 1st of this year, 2021, the great Floyd Little, out of Syracuse University and by way of the Denver Broncos of the National Football League. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. I surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards of Football. People knowing over the last 6 months, I've been having a great ride here on 100 Yards of Football along with my teammates, Mr. Logan Landers, Mr. Bobby Butler, Mr. Kevin Jones, Mr. Jeremiah Long. And we've done a lot of videos on a lot of great players, present and past. But I would say this. I've been following this game for almost 60 years of my life. I'll be 61 in July. I've read a lot about a lot of great players that's played at the college level, that's played at the high school level, that's played at the pro level. I've read about the great players from the SWAC, the great players from the SEC, the great players from the Pac-10, and the great players that's played in the National Football League, from Jim Brown to Lawrence Taylor to Johnny Unitas to Jerry Rice to Deion Sanders. But in all my time in researching players, I don't think I've had the pleasure and the honor to talk about a player. I'm going to talk about this young man today, Mr. Floyd Little. And what I say about Floyd Little in reading his story, it literally brought tears to my eyes because this young man was very special. And not only special on the field, but special in what he did off the field, in the determination and the commitment he made as a young man. Floyd Little, in my eyesight, is one of the most special human beings that played on any level. And him being an African American and what he faced in the 60s, I can tell you I'm proud today to be an African American. And Floyd Little, after finishing up my research this past weekend, has became one of my heroes when I talk about this great game of football. So let me start with his story. This is a young man that had a lot of ups and downs early on in his life. He lost his father at 6 years old, grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. Didn't know where to go, but he finally turned his life around. Ended up being a great high school player at Hill Holes High School. But he didn't have the grades. So he got a break to go to Bordertown Military School in New Jersey. He was the first African American to attend that school. And when he got there, he performed at a high level, not from athletic ability on the football field, but from an academic standpoint. He was recruited by 47 schools. He had 47 scholarships. All the schools like Notre Dame wanted them, Boston College. But what stuck out in my mind, a young Floyd Little, is that maybe the greatest general in war combat from World War I to World War II and the Korean War, General Douglas MacArthur, recruited him to come to Army. And not only recruited him to come to Army as a football player, but also from an academic standpoint and say, Floyd, you can end up becoming a general. That's powerful, man. Being the only African-American student at a prestigious school in New Jersey back in the 60s, read between the lines. But he accepted a scholarship to Syracuse University. But this is the thing about it. He accepted an academic scholarship. And boy, when he got there from 1964, 1965, 1966, he put on a show. And think about this. His blocking fullback was the great Larry Zonka, who went on and won 2 Super Bowl rings with the Miami Dolphins. But I'm going to talk about 1964 and my recalculation of Floyd Little. I was 4 years old. That year they played Kansas, who had the best running back in the country in Gary Sayers. Nobody heard of Floyd Little. Syracuse won that game 38-6. That's when Floyd Little came on the landscape. 159 yards, 16 carries, 4 touchdowns, and the legend was born. Then in 1966, January 31st, this when I kind of saw Floyd Little play as a 6-year-old against my home state school, the Tennessee Volunteers. They had Dewey Warren. They had Bob Johnson, had Paul Newhoff, and the great speedy Richmond Flowers. And you know what Floyd Little did on national television that day? 216 yards on 23 carries. After his college career ended that day, he was a 3-time All-American. 3-time All-American at Syracuse University. And he was following the footsteps of the great Ernie Davis and Jim Brown. But then he took it to the National Football League. 1967, first round pick, 6 overall by the Denver Broncos. He went to a city that was not even known for football. But this what stuck out to me when I think about Floyd Little. He was a 5-time All-Pro. His career stats wasn't all that great. He went over 6,000 yards. He was the first player to lead the league in rushing on the losing team. And he was All-Pro in 1969. And his career record with Denver was 47, 73, and I believe 2 ties. It was on a losing football team. They only had 2 winning seasons. But he still willed that organization from 67 to 75 to be relevant. And he brought a new kind of respect out there in the air in Denver, Colorado. But the most important thing I think about Floyd Little is this right here. He was about winning, commitment, and under any circumstances, he was about always setting a role as a role model under any circumstances. That what made Floyd Little great. He retired at 34 years old from the game. But this is what makes him so special and what I'm proud of. After his retirement, he finished 40th out of 140 and got a law degree from Denver University. Then he turned around and got his master's in public administration. Then he became successful as a young African American in the business world. Opened up the first dealership as an African American in Denver, Colorado, in the suburbs of Inglewood, Colorado. Then he went out to Los Angeles and had 2 very successful car dealerships. Then he went to Seattle and had a very successful car dealership. He was doing it at a high level academically. Respected, honored, and then he got finally elected into the Hall of Fame in 2010. And it could have been no better person that could represent Syracuse University. But the one thing I would take away doing my research on Floyd Little, it was 7 things that he put out there to be very successful as a man in this society. 1 is, do you have the drive? 2, do you have the determination? 3, the dedication. 4, the desire. 5, the commitment to excellence. 6, the sacrifice to be great. And 7, your attitude has to be right every day, under no circumstances, whether you're having a bad day or whether you're having a good day. And most of all, the will to impact other people's lives, whether it's good or bad. Doing my research on Floyd Little was one of the best things I ever done. And when we talk about a guy that set the tone under a lot of really serious obstacles back in the 60s, he by far goes to the top of my list. Then he went back home to the school that he played football at, and he became a special assistant to the AD. And think about all the people that talk about how special he was. Our president of the United States, Joe Biden, said he's one of the best individuals he's ever known. Tom Coughlin, two-time Super Bowl champion, said that there was any guy that he'll go to war with, Floyd Little. The great Jim Brown speaks highly of him. Oh my God. So many people. Tom Jackson of ESPN says he's like a brother to me. That's right, the Tom Jackson that was on ESPN for a lot of years. So many great people talk about this young man, Floyd Little. And he passed away on January the 1st, 2021. And we lost a great man and a great football player that done it at a high level, both on the field and both in the business world. And over my years, I didn't know how special he was till I read about him this weekend. He would go down as one of the greatest people that not only played in the National Football League, but made a tremendous impact in our world today. So my final words when I talk about this great young man, Floyd Little, and to his family. He loved James Baldwin, great African-American poet. So I'm going to end it today because Floyd Little, you've been a tremendous impact on my life. And this is what his favorite words that came from James Baldwin. Naked I came into this world, and naked I shall leave. We are bound to leave everything that we accomplish in this lifetime and behind, passing it on so I can leave a legacy that my family can be proud of. Those are some powerful words. I'm sorry, I tear up. But Floyd Little, I knew about you, sir. But after reading about you this weekend, you are a very special man and a very special player. And I wish I could have got to meet you in my lifetime. Because the words that you just said, and I just talked about and I read about you, it's been a tremendous impact to me. And I guarantee you, I'm going to go back to your 7 principles: drive, determination, dedication, desire, the commitment to excellence, sacrifice, and attitude. Thank you, Mr. Floyd Little. It's been an honor to honor you today here on 100 Yards of Football. Y'all enjoy the week. Be blessed. And if anybody is watching this video today from the Syracuse Nation to the National Football League, what y'all need to do is send some type of very special greeting to Floyd Little's family, his children, his son Mark, and his wife Deborah, because this young man was the epitome of what it is to be an African-American man making it at a high level in the United States, the National Football League, and on a college level. Thank you today. I'm Vincent Turner here at 100 Yards of Football, and y'all be blessed.